Okay, let's take a look at what is called an immediately invoked function. Basically, this is a function that runs right away. So in the wild, in regular JavaScript, we are going to see a regular function that looks something like this. So we've got a regular function, keyword, then the function name, maybe a couple parameters, and it returns something. We don't know what it's going to return. It could return basically anything. And then to execute that function, we always have to do something like this. Function name, put in the first parameter, put in the second parameter, and maybe store it as, a variable of some sort. And that automatically runs it. In the last lesson, what we looked at was something a little bit different, an anonymous function. And we sort of got into an IIFE, an immediately invoked function expression is actually what it's called. So let me write that out. I've been saying IIFE, but I haven't said the whole thing. So IIFE is equal to an immediately invoked function expression. And so these are basically just functions that run automatically. And when we do this, we're going to see that this actually works. So let's go ahead and refresh. I've got a default value in my input field because that's what it's grabbing, document query selector, js.custom name, and it's returning the value. So I have default value of Kylo Ren, and when I refresh, it looks like nothing happens, but when I use getName, it shows up as Kylo Ren. So to create an immediately invoked function, basically, all we do is we take a function. We'll do this one first. This one is an anonymous function. So we just put an opening bracket at the beginning, closing bracket at the end, and then a set of brackets, or parentheses rather, a set of parentheses at the end. And that tells JavaScript, hey, as soon as you see this function, run it. And so it does. And so now we can just use getName instead of what we would have had to do with a regular function, which is getName as a function. And you can actually see that there's an uncaught type error here. It says getName is not a function. It's not. It used to be a function, but it actually returned a value in here automatically. So now getName is actually just a variable with a value in it. So that's how we turn an anonymous function into an immediately invoked function expression. If we wanted a regular function, let's not do that. Let's make a note in here actually that this is an IIFE with an anonymous function. If we wanted to create a new function that runs automatically, it could do literally anything. We could just create a function like this, give it a name. So let's say load app. That's going to be our name. And in here, it's going to say console.log, app is loading. There's going to be some sort of logic in here. Maybe your page is going to do something. Maybe there's an animation. Maybe you have to wait for something. And then at the end, you can say console.log, app is loaded. Well, right now, this is a regular function, so this isn't going to do anything. If we load the page, we're going to see that neither of these console logs show up. And let me just get rid of that there. And when I refresh, yeah, none of it shows up. I'm actually going to have to run load app as a function for this to work. But what if you have all sorts of logic in here and you don't necessarily want to run load app? It's just supposed to run automatically. Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing it this way. And this would work. Or you could just tell JavaScript, hey, just run this automatically. Just doesn't matter what it's called. We don't have to instantiate it. We don't have to load it. Just perform. Just as soon as it's there, let it execute. And so now when I refresh the page, we're going to see that the console logs both show up. Just like that. App is loading, app is loaded. So really, again, just as a quick refresher, all we do is we put an opening parentheses at the beginning of the function, and then one at the end of the function, and then a set of opening and closing parentheses at the very end. And that just tells JavaScript, hey, even though this is a function, run it automatically. Again, there's no homework, but whenever you look at a JavaScript library or a framework, you're going to see this kind of expression all over the place. And at first you think, well, why are there so many parentheses all over the place? And that's all this means. This just means we are simply going to execute whatever is in between this automatically. That's all it says. And so that is some syntactical fun with JavaScript.